I am so sad about what the Steam Machine could have been if we managed to get it at a semi-reasonable price, right? Because it's not the Steam Machine's expensive, it's that all fucking PCs are expensive. But imagine if we were able to get something like this before all these prices went up, back when things were actually still a reasonable price. I think sentiment would have been very different on the Steam Machine, right? We know that prices were likely, based on things they've said since the early interviews, that prices were likely going to be somewhere around the original Steam Machine prices, the original Steam Deck prices. And I don't think anyone would have had a problem then. But so much of the discussion around the Steam Machine has basically just been, it's expensive. Hey guys, you can build a cheaper one. Look guys, here's a parts list. We can buy a cheaper one. And that's great. And I hope it tricks people into actually going and building Linux PCs. But I do wish it did well, because if it did well, there'll be more of an incentive to go and make more. And I don't think this is going to be like Valve pulling out of Linux gaming. I wish it had done better. And we don't know how many it sold, right? We don't know how many it sold, but I can't imagine with how expensive it was that it's done like phenomenally well. It's going to do phenomenally well in the long run. But they have said, let's go and find it. They have said in like other interviews, Steam Machine, faster new version. They have said they're going to like, yeah. Here's this random website, which is probably not the super reliable site, but I think it links to like the Verge article or something. They've talked about the idea of new Steam machines being released faster than the Steam Deck, which makes sense because it's basically just like a mini PC as opposed to a handheld, which has all of this extra stuff you gotta deal with because it's a tiny fucking device. I'm curious to see what happens with the deck, though, right? I'm so curious to see what happens with the deck, because the deck is still being sold. It's still functionally the same hardware. There's a different drive in it from the start, and we have the OLED version, but functionally still, like, the same main performance-critical hardware. And we haven't heard any rumors. We've not heard any, like, any leaks. There's not been any data mined from repos. We've kind of just not really heard anything about the deck. And if the deck does release anytime around when we are right now, it's going to have the same problems, right? It's going to have the exact same problems. That's my worry, that if they get to that point and we have another Steam Deck around, that it's not going to have that same excitement around it, that same fervor, because whatever it costs is just going to feel like way too much money. State of the PC industry, man. The state of the PC industry just makes me sad. Because I should also use my deck more. That's the other thing. I should use my deck more. I can talk about the deck being cool, but I don't really travel. Like, I don't go on the train or anything that much. Basically, the only time I get on the train is when I'm going to the city, because I don't want to drive in the city and I don't want to park in the city because it sucks and it's expensive. And I don't want to do it, so I don't do it. Also, yeah, it's easy to catch the train. The trains in SA aren't the greatest trains. They're not the fastest trains, but they're trains, and they're mostly clean. And you're probably not going to get stabbed as long as it's not a Saturday night. Nah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, probably. But hey, at the very least, Valve is still doing Proton. They're still supporting KDE. They still have this whole SteamOS thing. People are gaslighting themselves into thinking they need SteamOS. But at the end of the day, if it means more people gaming on Linux, kind of just a good thing for everyone. Because there will come a critical number where developers then have to ask the question, is it now financially viable to support our game on Linux? Is it now financially viable to enable our anti-cheat? Is it now financially viable to worry about bugs that happen running the game through Proton? there comes a point where that is a question that has to be asked, because there came a point where it had to be asked for macOS, and macOS is lower in a lot of the surveys. Now, macOS also has the advantage of being a more locked down system, so it's easier to go and support things like, you know, malware level anti-cheat. Not to the same extent, because there's certain things Apple doesn't let you do. That's the other thing, though. A lot of companies are kind of used to working with Apple and doing things the Apple way. So doing things the Linux way, where you have all of these different distros, there's a different level of incentive that needs to be there, likely considerably higher, but there is a number, right? If it's 10% of the market, if it's 15, if it's 20, 25, like, by that point, it would make sense if they would seriously consider Linux, but I don't know. Now, it is kind of nice, even though I don't play them, it is kind of nice that we are seeing a lot of the gacha bullshit actually work on Linux. Now, you gotta run some like custom version of Protons to make it all work, but you can go and play NTE if that is your thing. Now, I don't exactly care about gacha slop, but if you do, hey, look, I'm not gonna tell you not to play your gacha slop, right? I cannot criticize anyone else for playing gacha slop when half the fucking time I'm watching, like, isekai slop seasonals. So, is isekai slop any better than gacha slop? Yes, because I'm not spending money to get some fucking role of a character, but it's still slop nonetheless. It's still not exactly the most fine dining of media, one might say.